If you feel like you're not enough and you think achieving goals is going to fix that or solve that, you're wrong. It will never work. I'm going to explain to you why and how you can actually solve it. So if you want to feel like you're enough, that you're worthy, if you always have this pressure that you always have to do more, to achieve more, to be worthy, to be enough, to be loved, which I used to be. I used to experience exactly that. I'm going to explain to you what's going on, why is that happening, and ultimately how you can solve it. So if you're new to the channel, thank you for being here. My name is Lewis Huckstep. I'm a coach. I help people find their purpose, do the inner work, and unlock their full potential to achieve everything they want externally, but have deep meaning and fulfillment internally. So let's rock and roll. I'm going to rock and roll straight into this one, okay? So first thing I want you to really understand, from the moment you're born to the moment you die, your self-worth never changes. Please just sit with that for a moment, and I'm going to prove to you what I mean by that. Let me use a baby, best example. So if any parents, you obviously resonate a little bit more than this, but non-parents, you know those babies, those little like potato-looking things, right? So those little mini humans, those things. When a baby is born, what does a baby need to do to be enough? Do they need to have money? Do they need to have followers? Do they need to have a house? Do they need to have a great relationship? Do they need to have fancy clothes? Do they need to have a Louis Vuitton bag? What do they need to have to be enough? Nothing. They can literally shit their pants and they get love. They can throw up on a Louis Vuitton bag and they get love. They are perfect, whole, complete, and enough just being who they are. But when from the moment you're born to as you grow and evolve, you download limitations, you experience trauma, and this is what ties into you believing, perceiving that you're not enough. So that's the reason. So I'm going to break that down in more detail for you. The last example or metaphor for you is the statue of David. Now, I use this all the time and it gets overused all the time in self-development, but I love it, so I'm going to use it again. So if anyone that doesn't know the statue of David, Michelangelo, he sculpted this beautiful statue. Just Google it if you haven't seen it before. And someone asked him, how did you make such a beautiful statue or a beautiful work of art? And he said something along the lines of this. He said, it was really easy. David was in the statue. I just had to remove everything that wasn't him. That's essentially the same thing. When you're born enough. You're born worthy. You're born loved. You're born perfect. But then you download and you pick up all these layers that aren't you. So essentially, for you to feel like and be enough, be the fullest of you, it's about recognizing who is the real you, the statue of David, your true authentic self, which is underneath all the layers that aren't you, whilst removing those layers. So that's obviously a big metaphorical sort of big picture example, but I'm going to zoom in on that for you. Now, I'm about to share my screen. So if you're able to watch the video version of this podcast, you're going to actually see my screen here for you. So this is my method. It's called the Inspired Life Method. My courses are based around it. My book, I have a book called the Inspired Life Method. Go grab a copy if you want. I teach this at my live events. This is essentially all the pieces that you need for you to be enough and to be the visionary of your life and to create a life that inspires you, okay? So there's 3 big pieces when it comes to embodying the fullest version of you, to be enough, to be worthy, to be loved, whatever you want to call it. So 3 big pieces: self-mastery. That is knowing who you truly are. That's your true self. Now, this is where we go through your values. Your values are areas of life that intrinsically fulfill you. When people say, just be your true self, be authentic, be you, a lot of people are like, what the fuck do you mean? So it's about finding what are your values. Now, I talk about values all the time in my content because it's my most used probably term that I use, besides trauma maybe, but which is down here, which I'll get to soon. So values. Values are areas of life that intrinsically fulfill you. And it's not things like freedom, honesty, control, integrity. Those are character traits and behaviors. Values are areas of life. They're things that you do. They're things that you embody. They're things that you think about. They're things that light your soul on fire. They're things that fulfill you. Now, listen to this part. Whenever you hear the words have to, ought to, got to, should, supposed to, you're meant to, any version of those words, someone is projecting their values and beliefs onto someone else. And this is starting to build the layers of David, or the layers of you that aren't you. You should do this. You have to do this. You got to do this. It's just someone projecting their values onto you. Now, a lot of people experience this with their parents, with society, with religion, with their friendships, with their partners. Where in reality, you don't have to do jack shit. You don't have to be listening to this podcast right now. You're listening to this podcast or watching it, however you're consuming it, because at some level you want to. And if I go deeper, it's because it's benefiting your values at some level. You would have a value around learning or self-growth if you're listening to this. You wouldn't be doing it otherwise, unless you just think I'm fucking ruggedly handsome and you just want to listen to me for some reason. But you would probably have a high value on learning or growth if you're listening to this. So most people live their lives based on other people's projections. You will never feel whole trying to be number 2 of someone else. If I try to live to someone else's projections or someone else's values, I'm going to feel shit. When I teach values in my community, in my programs, this is one of the quotes that really stands out. Low self-worth is feedback that you're not prioritizing your own values. Let me do a super quick example of this. Think of what you think your values are. It might be family, relationships, friendships, travel, learning, growth, money, business, areas of life. Just think of some that are important to you. Relationships, health, wealth, travel, business, learning, whatever it is. Now, pretend that you never got to prioritize them. Pretend that you put other people's values, other people's expectations and needs ahead of your own. How would you feel? You'd feel shit. Your self-worth would go low. You feel like you're not enough because you're not being yourself. You're not prioritizing the things that are actually meaningful to you. This sounds so simple, but most people don't do this because they don't understand this, which makes sense. I'm here to help that. Part of my mission is to help that. So once you know what intrinsically fulfills you, your values, and you actually live to them, you feel amazing. My highest values are coaching, learning. I actually redid mine 2 days ago. I do them every 3 months. I recommend redoing them. So coaching, learning, relationships, health, business, and wealth. Those are my top 6. So when I'm coaching and I'm learning and I'm building relationships, I'm feeling healthy, I'm making money, and my business is growing, I feel fucking amazing. And look what I spend most of my day doing. I do most of my day living to my values. But if someone said, "Oh, Lewis, you should go do this. You should go do this. You have to go do this." That's them just projecting what they want to do based on their values and their beliefs. And if I listen to that, I will feel shit, and I will be being someone that I'm not, and my self-worth goes down, and I feel like I'm not enough. So I know I just ranted on about that for a while, but that's the first piece. You want to know what your values are and live to them. I'm not going to break these all down because we'll be here for too long, but that's the first part. Be the full expression and authentic version of you. Know your values and live to them. Sounds obvious. Most people don't do it. We then do purpose. Purpose is like the guiding light for your life, what you want to do, your gift to give to the world. I'm not going to go through that in detail. Your mission and vision is what the vision of your life is. What does the best version of your life look like 10 years from now? Wealth, health, family. We use your values to create all these. So we use your values to expand on them, to create your vision. It's a really beautiful process. That's self-mastery. That's the first step I start with people. What do you love? Who are you authentically? And let's just be the best version of you right now. Fantastic. Let's do that. The second pillar is inner work. Now, I talk about inner work in a lot more depth elsewhere, like the different bodies to inner work. There's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and energy bodies that you want to heal through. I'm not going to talk about that today. Well, I just did. There you go. But I'm just going to talk about the main 3 that I help people with. So limiting beliefs is probably the biggest one when it comes to feeling like you're not enough, and also your trauma and your coping mechanisms from that. Your emotional blocks probably won't tie too much into feeling like you're not enough. That's just going to help. That's just going to affect your emotional state, which I guess would tie into it, but not to the degree that these 2 will. So limiting beliefs is a big one. Your ego is the identity of who you view yourself to be, and it makes itself right. So your ego is the identity of who you view yourself to be. It's all your beliefs, all your memories, all your perceptions, everything you believe to be true and not true. Everything you believe is your ego. The thing about the ego, 2 traits. Number 1, it makes itself right. It reinforces itself, even if it's limiting. Number 2, it avoids pain. That's why it's very challenging for doing inner work with your ego, because your ego wants to avoid your fucking trauma and your limitations. It wants to reinforce its own limitations, and it wants to avoid pain. So when I ask you a question around something you're insecure about, you don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do that. Nah, let's talk about something else. Let's deflect. Let's not talk about it. So the reason people feel like they're not enough a lot is because they have a belief that they're not enough. They believe through their conditioning, through their parents, through whatever they went through, whatever life they've grown up with, they've downloaded a belief that they need to have a lot of money to be enough. You need to have a great relationship to be enough. You need to have a big fucking fancy house to be enough. You need to have money in the bank to be enough. You need to have 1 million followers to be enough. They just have this belief that I need to have something external for me to be enough. But the challenge with this, that becomes a mirage that you never arrive at. It's I'll be happy when. I'll be fulfilled when. I'll be enough when. But the thing is, the ego makes itself right, so it's always going to kick the can down the road. Now, if you're a high achiever like I am, and you haven't addressed this shit yet, like I didn't back in the day, you'll always move the goalpost. So when I was younger, I downloaded the belief that I wasn't enough. I thought I had to achieve and be an overachiever to prove my worth to my dad, because I used to live underneath his values and his beliefs, and I was trying to prove him right or prove him wrong. That was the old version of me. So I became an overachiever. I built a 6-figure network marketing business at the age of 19. I opened up 3 gyms by the age of 22. I built a social media following. I did all these things, but I never felt like I was enough. I always had to do more. I always had to have more. I always had to achieve more. I always had whatever. I was never fulfilled. I used to womanize and sleep with lots of women. I used to do all these things to try and get external validation to prove my internal worth. It doesn't work like that. It starts with knowing your values, being the authentic version of you, then removing those layers that aren't you, the limiting beliefs. And then I got really deep into inner work, into NLP, timeline therapy, DeMartini, inner child work, trauma, all these things. And I recognized, like what I said at the start of the podcast, your self-worth never changes. It's the beliefs that make you think otherwise. So you want to identify the limiting beliefs you have, that you're not enough, that you're not worthy, that you need to have X, Y, Z to be enough, and blah, 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 and remove them. Now, I have processes. I take people through these processes. I do it all the time. I get testimonials every day from my clients of them experiencing life without these beliefs. And it is so fucking beautiful. Now, the next point I'm going to touch on, so that's limiting beliefs. The next one I'll just touch on quickly is trauma. So I talk about this a lot in my content. There's trauma, coping mechanisms, and triggers. Trauma is a moment in your life where something was too much or not enough. I'll say it again. It is a moment in your life when something was too much or not enough, and it overwhelmed the system. It short-circuited the system. So trauma as well is something specific. It is a behavior or a character trait. That's it. It will be something that someone did or something someone did not do that was too much or not enough. And for every trauma you have, you create a coping mechanism. Something that helps you protect, hide, and overcome the trauma. And then a trigger is something that reminds you of the trauma and activates the coping mechanism. Now, you might have a coping mechanism of being negative and beating yourself up. So say you get rejected. That might be the moment in time. That's the behavior. Rejection, that's the character trait. So you got rejected. And then your coping mechanism may be that you disassociate, you get negative, you beat yourself up, you smoke a cigarette, you eat food, you shame yourself, whatever the thing is. So then whenever you get rejected, or perceive rejection, it will trigger and activate your coping mechanism. So you're constantly getting triggered into negative self-talk. Now that just might be one coping mechanism. One of mine was to overwork, to overachieve. One of mine was to disassociate and avoid conflict. So you'll have your own coping mechanisms. Yours may be to beat yourself up, to just be negative on yourself. And that could be the coping mechanism that you've picked up from your wounds and trauma. So how do we do that? We heal the wound. We heal the trauma. Do a healing process on the behavior, the trait, integrate that wound so the trigger and the coping mechanisms go away. So that's the only other part on inner work that I'm going to touch on today. And then the last one, to help you feel like you are enough, is practical, is actually having the skills. Because yes, I'm all about self-mastery and your purpose and being your true authentic self and doing the inner work, the limiting beliefs, the trauma, all those things. But I'm also very practical as well. Because we talk about skills, which are essentially the skills and strategies that you need to achieve something. It's Tony Robbins talks a lot about the art of fulfillment and the science of achievement. So this is very much the science of achievement part. It's what skills do you need to practice and to learn to be confident and competent. Like I'm not a very musical person. I don't play any instruments. I can't sing very well. If someone called me and said, Lewis, I've just signed you up for this theater performance that you have to go do, and say I had to do it for whatever, that's a projection, right? Someone projected onto me. But say I listened to that and I went and did something that I hadn't done before, I hadn't practiced before. I'll use a different example because that's a bit silly. Say I'm going to run events Okay, let's use that. So I'm in a phase of my career, of my business, where I'm starting to run in-person events. I've run one before, and I've spoken on stage at other people's events, but now I'm building like proper 3-day transformation events. So I haven't done a lot of it, so I'm a little bit nervous to do it because I'm like, okay, have I done this? Do I know how to handle conflict? Do I know how to hold a room, hold space, to answer questions, to hold my energy and all these things? Can I do all those things? I don't know. I haven't done it yet. So there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be. So this is where you feel like a fraud and you feel like an imposter because you're trying to now, well, not trying, you are doing something that you've never done before. So naturally, you're going to feel like a bit of a fraud. You're going to feel like an imposter. You're going to feel like you're not enough because you haven't done it yet. That's cool. One of my great mentors, Cody, if you're watching this, Cody, he has taught me follow the fraud. As long as it's in alignment with what your values, purpose, mission, and vision is. Like that theater example as an example. If someone says you have to do this, you should do this, you got to do this, and I actually don't want to fucking do that, then that's them projecting their values. However, when you get clear on your mission, your purpose, your vision, and you're like, okay, this is what inspires me, this is what lights my soul on fire, I really want to do this, then where's your edge within that? Where can you grow within that? Where can you be better within that? Whether it's posting content, starting a podcast, speaking on stage, asking the person out, doing the thing, whatever you have an edge around, wherever you get a little bit nervous, wherever you want to grow into, you're going to feel like a bit of a fraud. Follow the fraud in that instant. So the last piece to feeling like you are enough is to do the skills, practice. Like some people say I'm pretty confident on camera, which I would say is true. I think I'm pretty good on camera. I've done, this is I think episode 308 of my podcast, my own podcast. Plus I've been on over 50 other people's podcasts. Plus I've filmed thousands of reels and content and things. I've gone live on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, thousands of times. I've done tens of thousands of hours of speaking on camera. So I think I'm fucking pretty good at it. I'm confident with it. So I feel like I am enough when it comes to making content because I've done the skills. So when you blend those three things together, where you know your values, you know what lights your soul on fire, you know your purpose, you know your authentic mission and vision, that's yours, and you're moving towards it, you're addressing your limiting beliefs, you're healing through your triggers, your wounds, and you have the skill sets that you're practicing and you're leaning into your edge within that, you will be so fucking fulfilled. You'll feel so fucking enough, worthy, or the above. That's it. So sorry to go deep on this. I love this conversation, obviously, because the reason I had this, I had a friend reach out to me yesterday who's in real estate, and he looks like quite a high achiever. He does well financially. He's got the nice cars. He's but he, from my perception, obviously, because I see this with people, when I see that, I know a lot of that is going to be in an attempt to feel like he's enough. Where if he hasn't addressed the limiting beliefs, he doesn't know his values, he doesn't know his purpose authentically, he won't feel like he's enough. And he's pretty much said that word for word in the message that he sent me yesterday. So I'm like, fuck it, let's do a podcast on this because I know a lot of people will be resonating with that. Nothing externally that you achieve will help you feel fulfilled internally. It will if it's aligned with your values, your purpose, your mission, your vision, and you've addressed those limiting beliefs and those traumas and triggers. So if you've addressed those, yes, set goals. Yes, push yourself. Yes, go achieve whatever you want to achieve externally. That's great. But if you're doing that without addressing your shit, your limitations, your triggers, and you're not being authentic, your values, your purpose, your mission, your vision, you'll feel like you're not enough. And it will never change. The mirage of I'll be happy when, I'll be enough when, I'll be fulfilled when, you'll never arrive, my friend. It's fucking exhausting. I deal with it every day. It's pretty much what I help people with a lot. So I encourage you to do what I just said. So know your values, know your purpose, know your mission and vision, do the inner work, remove those limiting beliefs, heal through those triggers, those wounds, those inadequacies, then work on the skills. What skills, what goals, what things do you want to do to fulfill your mission, to fulfill your purpose, to express your values to the world, and you'll be the fucking ultimate expression of yourself. You'll be the visionary of your life. I hope you got value from this. If you did, please subscribe, like the video, share it with a friend. It would truly mean a lot. Just say, hey, check this out. This guy's a fucking legend. Check it out. If you'd like to work with me, I've got tons of options. I've got a book on Amazon. It's called The Inspired Life Method. If you'd like to read, there's also an audiobook version of it. It's like $1 or $2. I have a conscious community with a free 7-day trial, which comes with a one-on-one call with me, not my team. You'll literally have a call with me on Zoom when you join. And I'm also running in-person events as of 2025. They will be on the Gold Coast, so you have to be willing to travel to the Gold Coast, hang out with me, where we do 3-day transformation events, and I would love to have you there as well. Hope you got value from this. I love you. I appreciate you. Stay well. Be the fullest embodiment, expression of your true self. Have a great day. Speak to you soon.